Hey traders, Ben Nathan here. You can find me on my FX book under Ben Nathan FX if you wish to check out my performance for the year. The purpose of this video is to go through something I call fundamental flow and see how it applies to charts. Firstly, let's have a look at what's gone on overnight so we can put what we learn into perspective. Firstly, we had a relatively week-long dip on the Aussie yen pair of around 226 pips or thereabouts, going on for 300 over the last week, that is. And you can see we've got some long-term downwards trending as well. So the pair's been historically very weak. However, what we can see is that today we've rallied up by as much as 123 pips. So what we want to do is try and work out why that is. Now, if we have a look at the dollar-yen pair, we can see the yen's weakened against the dollar. If we go to the Aussie-dollar pair, we can see the Aussie overall has strengthened against the dollar. So, something has happened that has made both the yen weaken and the Aussie strengthen. Now, you could do all sorts of things. You could draw Fibonacci's over these patterns. You could look for head and shoulders or, retracements. Whatever anybody wants to say. There are ways to try and look at charts and analyse why it's happened. But the truth is, guys, there's no technical reason or no pattern that's caused this move to happen. Okay, it's simply not the case. So what we need to try and do, and when you get used to it, it's much easier than analysing charts, is understand fundamental flow. So let's have a look and see how it applies to the strength of the Aussie and weakness on the yen that we've seen here today. Now, excuse the rustic layout of this presentation, but hopefully it still gets a point across. So first of all, as we know, the Aussie yen pair was weak. And again, that wasn't because of some pattern or some long-term trend on the charts. There's a fundamental reason behind that. So let's understand the flow of what's been going on. So China economy was suffering. Australia was seeing fairly poor data, and we've had poor data coming in from the commodities throughout the last few weeks. So therefore the Australian dollar in particular was weak, and what happened was, of course, there was a sell-off on the Australian dollar and there was lots of buying into the yen because it's a safe haven pair, or has been a safe haven pair. So it's the stable currency that traders flock to when things get tough for another currency. Hence the Aussie yen being fairly weak. So all that changes. As we've seen, we're now showing a fairly bullish Aussie yen chart. We're seeing strength in the Aussie and weakness on the yen against the dollar as well. So what's happened? Again, we need to understand the fundamental flow. So what happened was, overnight, the People's Bank of China effectively injected funds into the economy. I believe it's between 50 and 60 billion. So what does that mean? Well, it's good news for China because they've got more money. Therefore, the sentiment surrounding China is up. So that sell-off on the Aussie that there was a result of the poor Chinese economy, it's only logical to expect that sell-off to reverse and people will start buying back into the Aussie to push it back to where it needs to be. And remember, trading into that Japanese yen, there'd been many safe haven trades that were there off the back of bad Chinese data, and many of them will have been stopped out, which ultimately means there's less money invested into the yen. So therefore, the yen weakens. So it's as simple as that, guys. That's just a fundamental flow. And again, just to go back on that, so we've got the poor Chinese economy, poor data from the Australians, poor commodities. We have a sell-off on the Aussie dollar, so that's the flow. We're buying into the Japanese yen, and therefore the Aussie yen drops down. And that's the fundamental flow of that downwards move. Then we get some good news for China, so that Aussie sell-off reverses, initial trading into the yen, so those safe haven trades are stopped out. Less investment goes into the yen weakens. So that's a simple explanation as to why we're seeing such moves in the charts. And when you can learn to understand that fundamental flow, you know exactly what the charts will look like before you even open up your trading platform. And that's the sheer power of fundamental flow. Now, it doesn't come overnight, but if you can take the time to try and understand and try and learn how that flow works, I can guarantee you your trading will be much, much better than it would have been beforehand. So many people ask me what the turning point was for me becoming a full-time fund manager, and the turning point was when I added fundamental analysis into the way I trade and therefore stopped gambling on patterns and started investing in the markets. Hopefully this video provided some help or inspiration to traders out there. As usual guys, if there's any questions you can get hold of me fairly easily just by replying to this video or adding a comment or emailing me directly.